Our first thing here, we're gonna talk about the movie It.
All right.
Now you guys haven't seen it,
Nope.
but Dusk, he did see the older version, the TV movie of it with
Oh,
Tim
yeah.
Curry,
Way back in the day.
and you did read the book.
I read several parts of it, yes, and I do know a lot of the lore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay,
He was
And
young
then-
back then, so.
yeah. So, and then that was like peak Stephen King on cocaine. Am I right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There's no confusion in that.
Yeah. So with this one, it's basic setup. So it's 7 young kids who live in the town of Derry, Maine, and it's all about them being haunted by the evil clown by the name of Pennywise.
Okay.
And I didn't, like I said, I didn't see the TV movie, but I've always heard everything. As people's always told me about it was how good Tim Curry was as Pennywise. Like he's pretty much the saving grace.
It's not that he's good. It's just that he's the best thing about it.
Okay, he's just the best thing about it in a shitty movie.
Well, yes, the most memorable thing. I think I need to clarify.
Okay, all right.
So it being a shitty movie, like, how is it perceived after all these years? Because, people have it in their childhood where I'm like, oh, man, it was the movie that scared the shit out of me.
It's still bad. Like, I heard a lot of people talk about it. People still think it's a bad movie.
It doesn't hold up at all.
Yeah,
Okay, I might go back and watch it then.
yeah. Special effects.
No,
are-
you don't have to.
Well, I feel like I feel like when it's things like that with my nostalgia, because I have good memories of it. I watched it back then.
Oh, okay. You watched it too.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's-
Okay.
People said it was scary as shit. I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and watch the movie. I watched it. It's like it didn't scare me as much as everybody else, but it was a fairly decent movie back then. And I want to see, like, is it still up to par?
Technically, it's just it's a TV miniseries.
Yeah.
Was it a mini? Man, that's how
Yes.
my memories play tricks on me. Like, what
It is
year
a
did it?
miniseries. It's about 2.5 hours each.
Yeah.
Almost 2 hours each.
Because it's the same way they're gonna.
One is the children,
yeah.
one is the children, and one is the adults.
Yeah.
And the adults suck.
Yeah, you got that right.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm interested to see how this is gonna work because, like I said, they're doing the same thing with the movie where this is chapter 1.
Yes.
And then chapter 2, obviously they're gonna make that because this movie's doing really, really well in the box office. It's tracking really well. It's already made, I think, over $200-something million already.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's the most successful horror movie opening of all time.
I think, yeah, somebody did say that. Yeah, I did read that somewhere where, somebody say it was the most successful, like, opening for any horror movie, which is, so you definitely know they're going to definitely make another one. Because sometimes with these movies, when they say there's a chapter 1 and there's going to be a chapter 2 or something, that doesn't always usually work out because the movie ended up being terrible and then nobody goes to see it. But this movie generated, I think, a lot of hype about it. I think people were really interested to see it. And I think for the most part, I think it's worth it. Because coming into this movie, I like all the kids. I think they do a really good job. I think it does what that kind of 80s movie thing does of getting how kids really interact with each other, just how like Steven Spielberg did with movies like Close Encounters of the Third Kind
Okay.
and E.T. and even, like another Stephen King novel that got turned into a film, Stand By Me. And this is basically Stand By Me, but with a clown in it. It's basically like that similar kind of same thing here.
Pretty much, yeah.
Down to the bully, and, kind of the kids. And it's kind of that same kind of similar thing. And they even have like one kid from Stranger Things in this
Nice.
who, Stranger Things is also a big homage to.
I believe is it Will from Stranger Things?
The kid with the dark hair.
Yeah.
Who's kind of like the leader, I guess, of that crew in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's him, yeah. He's in this, who plays like a foul-mouthed kid named Richie.
That's so funny to hear about since he's so kind of sort of peachy keen in the Stranger Things.
Yeah. I mean, he's, saying fuck and I'll fuck your mother and, did your mom like the taste of my dick? And, it's
damn.
like, like he's saying, shit like that. You know what I mean? So he's always making, he'll turn anything into a sex thing, like out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's one time when they're saying like, Derry is the home of like beavers, and he said, "Oh yeah, beaver, yeah, am I right, guys?" And then he, asks for a high five, shit like that. So he just turns every single thing into that type of sex stuff.
So he's like a proto you.
Yeah.
Me, I don't talk about sex a lot. When the fuck you ever hear me do that shit? I don't tell no lame ass pun jokes like that.
I'm glad you don't.
Never caught me doing that shit.
If your puns get that bad, man,
Yeah, I
have to
don't
take
do
that
Throw
back.
you out.
Yeah, please do, because I never tell no shit like that. And then the kind of the leader of this crew is Bill, who little brother Georgie was one of the victims of Pennywise,
Okay.
and so that leads him to kind of really go out and search and look around this town and search for his brother, because he's not giving up hope. And I think right off the bat, one thing I really like about this movie is that it's very brutal, especially towards the kids. Like, they don't really give a fuck, because this is R-rated, and they show a lot of violence towards the kids. And that's something you don't really see a lot. Even in kind of a hardcore film, they still kind of cut away and still kind of do, things that you don't really see a lot.
They pussyfoot around the idea of death among children.
Yeah, and this one,
So-
it gets really right into it.
So this is like a real horror movie right here. This is no jump scares or anything. Like this is unbearable to watch sometimes.
Sometimes it is. We say jump scares because that goes into one of my cons for the film here.
Okay.
Because I think the film, it ratchets up, like the music. You know how it does that horror movie music of raising up the chords and everything like that.
Yeah, in the tempo, and it's just like, oh no, something horrible's gonna happen now.
Yeah. It does that a lot, when I think they should just let it play. The film is naturally kind of scary on its own, and Bill Skarsgård does a good job as Pennywise. Like, I think he does.
I was just about to ask that. How is he? I don't know if you had much of a comparison, but I mean, guy's in a clown costume.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm not too scared of clowns, so I'm not too
Yeah,
bothered
same.
by it.
I don't like clowns. I can see why clowns are scary. Like, I'm not a big fan of clowns. Bill Skarsgård here as Pennywise, I think he does a really good job. And I think he's also aided by modern day special effects, something that Tim Curry wasn't aided by, obviously, because that movie was made in the 80s. So this,
Unfortunately, and with a very low budget.
yeah, very, very low budget. And then with this one, so they're able to do a lot more stuff with him than they could with Tim Curry's version. So, for instance, like, he can, show, because he's just an interdimensional demon, basically.
Yeah, he's basically just a being that can transform into whatever the hell it wants.
Yeah. I mean, he could just transform it. It just happens he chooses the form of a clown. It just so happens.
I mean, he could even choose to be a giant spider at one point. Who cares?
Yeah. I mean, it could be anything. And so I think he does, so that helps him be a very effective Pennywise. And, like, there's a scene where he, kind of removes his face and opens up, and it's like a big giant, kind of like, almost like a shark, where his teeth can grow big and expand, his mouth can get really big. And that is, kind of terrifying, you know what I mean, to see something like that. And how, his performance also can help him transform in all these type of different creatures, because he also takes the form of, like, all their worst fears. And, like, for instance, one kid,
nice.
I think one kid's name is Eddie, and he's a big person against germs and everything. Like, he doesn't like that diseases. He knows all about that stuff, because his mother coddled him a lot, and told him, like, everything can make you sick. This can make you sick. This can
More than coddled, it's more of a obsessed.
Yeah.
Like
Possibly a very extreme form of OCD.
OCD. Yeah, probably like a very extreme form. Maybe even somewhat of Munchausen's to a degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where, so his big fear is, like, sickly things. So what Pennywise comes to him as is as, a leopard, with all types of diseases, and
Okay.
he's got gout, and he's chasing him around. And, like, for one kid is scared of a painting in, like, his father's office, like a painting and stuff. So that, like, so he makes that painting come to life and scare that kid.
So you said this is your con or what? Like this seems like the most basic. Like you take fears. Oh, I'm afraid of a painting. I'm afraid of germs. Like,
Right.
can we get like a dinosaur or something? Like, I don't know. Like,
Right.
I don't know why I said dinosaur to begin with, but just like a
Yeah,
jaguar.
like kids think those are cool until you meet them
Yeah.
up front.
Yeah, why would a kid? I mean, yeah, kids would think.
Yeah,
dinosaurs.
like I said, I don't know why I said dinosaur. I've been playing Ark Survival Evolved a little bit too much.
Okay, yeah,
That's what I'm afraid of.
okay, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, so like he presents them into their worst fear and things like that. And I think that worse because I think the more scared the kids are, the better they taste to him. And I mean, he really, and that's also adds another thing to Bill Skarsgård's performance because he can't wait to eat the fuck out these kids. Like he's drooling, his eyes are just staring at the kid. Like he can't wait to eat this kid, like. And there's some moments also where I think it goes into one of my cons for the film is that a lot of times he's got these people dead to rights, and it's like, why don't you just do this now? But because it's like you gotta wait till the final climax and all this other type of stuff, you can't really do it at this moment. And I thought, like some of that I thought was a little bit of a cop out there.
Okay.
I think that this film, the problems I had with it also is Pennywise as far as power wise, the things he can do and the things he can't do. There's some moments where it's like you think, does his power work on just a psychological level where people like only the kids can see it and it's not real, but it's kind of blurry. Like Freddy Krueger works only in dreams. So you know that. So okay, that's where his thing happens. In the real world, he doesn't really have much power, but his things works only in the dreams. But this one, it's like, does it work only in your mind? Can he actually come physically into the world and mess with you? It's like you don't really quite know. And I think that's a little bit of an issue with the writing there. And I think that goes even to Stephen King himself because he doesn't have a clear definition. I mean, in the book, does he have a more clear definition of what he can and can't do?
In a way, but honestly, it's so vague. He can do whatever he wants, and I mean, some of the biggest problems of the book is that while there are scary and really effed up a lot of scenes in the book, a lot of them feel disjointed and individual. Like, oh, this kid is scared of this, but this kid is also scared of this, and this kid, and they never really it's a narrative, but only by string, not by like ideal or an actual narrative. It's just so yeah, his power is very vague. He can honestly do whatever the heck he wants.
Right.
I don't know if he can get into people's dreams, but there is an idea of illusion and his power over those who have fear, and the most susceptible being children. So adults don't necessarily believe in it, and so he can do whatever he wants in front of them. But it doesn't also explain the amount of uncaringness that the parents display in the book and even in the TV show, and I'm assuming the movie, where you're like, these aren't real people. They wouldn't just stand there and watch this happening.
Well, a lot of the adults in the movie, all of them are fucked up. Like, they're all weird or creepy or evil in some type of way.
And like Stephen King, once again in Maine.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, does Pennywise just have an effect over the whole town like that as far as making people that way, or were they always that way?
Well, I think that's a typical 80s movie, right? The parents are all fucked up.
I mean, no, but these are really fucked up parents. like the only girl in the movie, like her dad, like her whole home situation is really bad. So it's like, okay, I mean, and
that's putting it mildly.
Yeah, I mean, her whole thing is just really, really, really bad.
Okay.
And then, for instance, the bully, his home life is really shitty, and it's just like, okay, and then there's a thing that happens with like the pharmacist, like there's a scene with the pharmacist, that's also really creepy. Like the girl in the group, she like tries to play the pharmacist.
Okay.
And he gets really, really into it. So he's kind of a creep. So it's like, you don't know if like they were always like this. So it's just the effect of Pennywise and him just being in this town and him having the control of it. Because he comes back, they say, every 27 years.
Okay.
Like that's when he does it.
Like Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, kind of like that. And so it's like, okay, does he just have this, luring effect over the whole town? Because like, and also they did something also cool where there's certain scenes in the movie where like, somebody showed this to me. I saw this on Facebook. Like there's they're standing next against a wall, and there's graffiti on the wall, and then in the graffiti you see Pennywise's face in the graffiti. So
Okay.
it's like, does he just have an effect over the whole town or something like that? I mean, do they ever hint to something like that in the TV movie or the book at all?
In the book, they do, and even somewhat in the TV movie. It is hinted, but it would kind of be definite in the book. It's more on the fact that ever since it's just kind of been here, it just kind of festered and its way through, and so yeah, in many ways. But even that has always been bothered me somewhat. But yeah, no, definitely, I would say he's had a larger effect, not just on the children, but on the whole town as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Because-
I guess you kind of get that sense a little bit. Yeah, that he does. And then one issue I also like, just to close it out a little bit. One issue also is the climax. I think some people might not be really satisfied by the way it ends. As far as what happens. Yeah, I mean, I think some of the climax is kind of like they just defeat kind of the evil because.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like.
I mean, that does lean closer to the book,
Really.
where they face their fears individually one by one, and now he can't attack them as a whole, so he he can't beat it. I mean, unfortunately, that's just the way kind of the book was.
Right.
So if you're expecting like a big ending, kind of like the show did, that's not necessarily how it went down in the book. But I can understand if they had done that, that would have probably made it better for a movie, because in a book you can transition better, it moves on, you can let it linger. But
In like the book.
yeah.
In the book, so does Pennywise like have a specific way he goes out? Like, is there something that really hurts him? That's like, oh, we can use this.
In the book, they think because he's such a took place in the 50s, the kids. So when they were adults, they're in the 80s.
Right.
But in the 50s, one of the kids is a fan of the Wolfman and a lot of monster movies. A lot of it is just Stephen King to be like, I'm a fan of Dracula. I'm a fan of the Wolfman. I love these old monster movies.
Right.
And one of it is, oh, how do you kill a Wolfman? Oh, you use silver. And it's just like, oh, well, it's not. It's like, can silver really kill him? No. It's more in the fact that you believe silver can kill him.
No.
Oh,
Like,
right. Yeah, I think, yeah.
It's
Okay.
the idea that if you think it can kill him, then it does, because he feeds on fear, and and his weakness is the opposite of your imagination. If you feel so strongly that this can defeat him, it will work. It will work, or at least it will have an effect on him as in a larger group. Individually, not so much. But if all of you believe, and like if the entire town believed silver will kill this thing, then he will be at least weaker to it. At least.
Okay. So that makes sense. Okay, so the ending doesn't. Okay, so the problems with my ending, problems I have with the ending. Okay, so that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a really good film. I had a lot of fun with it. I think there's some good scares in here. I don't really get scared per se by a film. Like, I mean, like I'm a little too old to be jumps. Like.
But it still feels eerie, right?
There are movies that can still creep you though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This movie does a good job of creeping me out. I think it's
Okay.
very fair. I mean, it's some really cringy scenes in here that's like really good. And also there's a nice little black boy that's in the movie that shows up in a little bit in the beginning. Then he goes away for a large part of it. Then he comes back.
That is such bullshit.
Which I heard they.
No, I mean I'm being sorry. I'm speaking as someone who knows the book and the TV show. Does he have the hobby of being interested in the history of the town?
No, that goes to the little chubby boy.
Are you serious?
Right. So that goes.
He already has the love triangle plot. I'm baffled why they would do that.
Well,
Because without that idea, like, why even have him in the movie?
yeah. I mean,
The whole reason for the black kid's character is that he's fascinated by the history of their town and why it keeps happening to them, and he's the one who calls them all back. He's supposed to be kind of like, aside from Bill, he and Bill form a good relationship with each other and become like really good friends. And
yeah, that doesn't.
wow, that's a shame, man.
I mean, they don't really, because they say he's homeschooled, so he's not in school with the rest of the kids, so he doesn't really form like a bond with them at all. I mean, they can just save him once, because you can tell like because the bully that chases them also chases him, and you can tell like the bully doesn't like him because he's black, and cause
Right, right.
'cause
But
yeah.
that would make a little bit more sense if it was like the 50s.
Well, it's still the 80s. I mean,
I know it's still the 80s, but
well,
a
still
lot
now.
of change from.
Shit, if this took place now, a black person in a small fucking town, that shit wouldn't.
I guess that's a good thing. The idea that the small town really, no matter where it takes place, it's going to be the same shit.
Yeah, I mean, so they.
But
don't-
that
yeah.
is a shame, though. That is a shame that the kid doesn't have much to do.
Yeah. Yeah, he shows up a little bit at the beginning, then he's gone for such a large part. You forget that he's almost in it, and then he comes back.
Oh
towards the
man, that
end.
really is a shame because he was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I definitely give it a thumbs up. Tune in for it, most definitely. Hello, thanks for checking out our content. If you liked it, let us know, and if you didn't, let us know that as well. If you want to see more content, we post every Saturday on SoundCloud and YouTube at The Afternoon Tune. You can also find us through various social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all one word at The Afternoon Tune. And if you don't deal with any of that social media stuff, you can also find us through our email at theafternoontune@gmail.com. And don't forget to always stay tuned.